morning, Dr. Samke. How are you?
I'm well. How are you? I feel like I've met you because I've watched a lot of your interviews.
Oh, God.
No, when I was looking for Speakers Inc., I went right back to the initial and all of that. So
Oh,
it's
dear
quite
Lord. Okay, how to unnerve somebody first thing in the morning. So let me start by asking you a little bit of your backstory. How did you come to be a speaker? What is it that you speak about? How did you get here? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes. So my speaking journey started long ago. I was in high school when my dad forced us to attend Toastmasters. So that was the first time, and I didn't understand the point of it all. And being told about self-confidence and how to carry yourself, it didn't make sense to me. But I realized that I would thrive in those spaces, and I started entering competitions that time. I found that I was not a sporty child. So this was more of a cultural activity that I enjoyed. I realized that with time, it would be after hours. So we'd finish
Yeah.
at 8 p.m., start from 4 until 8 p.m., having to present different topics. And then that's when my interest in speaking grew, and I'd enter competitions, and just feeling the fact that you can relate and connect with people in a large audience using your journey, using your insights. I just found that so impactful to connect with people in that way. And with time, I've just realized that, I had a turning point, as you'll hear about it, in 2020, where, my identity as a doctor felt a bit threatened. And then I had to write down, what am I good at? What do I love doing? And then I realized that public speaking is definitely one of those things that I love doing. And I feel so at home in doing it. So I had to write down things that I know I'm good at and proud of doing. And one of them is this one. Hence, here I am. And I now use my journey with mental illness as the backstory, basically, to public speaking and teaching. Not only teaching, but literally just connecting with people and their struggles, because we come in struggles in many forms.
Okay, cool. So just as a side note, I used to do debating in high school, and I was petrified. Every single time I stepped on stage, I thought I was going to die. And I have to tell you that I still feel that way. It doesn't matter how much you practice. For me, it's still terrifying. It's awful.
Absolutely, it does happen that way. It's true. I think the nerves are good if they keep coming, because it means you're not taking the platform for granted.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly. 100 years ago, I was sitting with, I booked Mike Lipkin long before your time, I'm sure. And he was doing a talk for a huge audience in Johannesburg. And I was with him behind the scenes. And he was walking around and he was pacing like a tiger in a cage. And I said to him, Mike, you've done this so many times. Please tell me that you're not nervous. And he looked at me and he said to me, the day I'm not nervous is the day they put me in a coffin, because that means that I'm dead. I'm nervous all the time. And you have to harness that energy to take it out on stage. And for me, that was such a powerful lesson on overcoming your fears, right? So on how to, I'm still working on it, just a
Yeah.
couple of decades later, but
But I completely agree with that notion. And it's very comforting to hear that about an experienced speaker saying that.
Yeah. I think, and so also, maybe we can edit this out later. But also, like Duncan and I used to run Pecha Kucha in Johannesburg, and so that format is very challenging for speakers because it's 6 minutes and 40 seconds. You've got 20 slides on the screen for 20 seconds each. And you have, as the presenter, you have no power because the slides just keep rolling. So you don't have the clicker in your hand, you don't have the control. And so you just have to know your stuff and keep going, right? And so we thought that having this wealth of experience in our network, that the speakers would be lining up to come and do this Pecha Kucha thing. It was great, to add into your arsenal of talks that you've done. It was good publicity, all of that. And no one of them applied for it. They looked at the format and they were like, no. So I had to basically coerce them, a lot of them, into coming to do it for us. And they had to redo their talks. So I put them under a lot of pressure. And I'll never forget one night, one of the busiest speakers in the country. I'm not going to mention his name because I don't think he'd like me to tell you this. But he was standing, against the wall, staring off into the distance, clearly getting into his head space, going through the flow of his slides in his head, getting ready. And next to him was a complete novice, somebody who'd never gotten onto a stage more than 2 or 3 times before with the exact same look of terror and panic on their face that the very experienced speaker had. And it just struck me that it doesn't matter how many times you do this, as a speaker, when you're confronted with something new, you're just as terrified as everybody else. And that put my mind at ease quite a lot as well. So when I get up on stage and I bumble through things and I like try and introduce people, and recently they asked me to speak in San Diego and I didn't sleep the night before. So it was horrifying. Just terrible. Okay, so what inspired you to pursue professional speaking?
What inspired me is the passion towards, engaging with an audience, wanting to connect with people that I might not know. And one of the things is my journey with my mental illness. I realized that I don't necessarily have to be a doctor only in the ward or only in the clinic or only in the hospital, but I can marry my knowledge and my 21-year journey with bipolar and the ability and passion towards public speaking and put it all together. And I just feel that people connect well, and because there's also that knowledge base, but also the experience base counts very much. So that comfort to be vulnerable in the space, that is what inspired me. And the activism and advocacy, I decided to harness that passion to something that I'm good at and passionate about and want to grow in.
Okay, and how is that going? How does it feel to be doing this now that you're pursuing it professionally?
I feel excited about the possibilities that lie ahead. I really feel that platforms like this, I mean, when I researched, like I'm saying, I feel like I know you, because when I heard the interviews and I'm like, oh, there's actually a world like this, it excited me a lot to realize that this I can do like with my life for however, to whichever extent that I want it to be, but I can. So I'm really excited about the possibilities that lie with that. It's not easy because not everybody thinks you can speak for a living or for a long chunk of your life you can actually do that. So it's hard to, and people always dismiss it as, oh, you're a motivational speaker, which is fantastic, but there's more to public speaking than just only being that. And I aim to just use my experience to connect with the group of people, no matter how big or small the crowd is.
Okay, great. All right, so we've spoken about what's inspired you and why you get up to do this. Tell us a little bit about your doctorate. What doctor of? What doctor?
I'm a medical doctor.
Okay.
I have a background in clinical work. So I've been a clinical doctor in the wards and the clinics for the past 11 years. And yeah, I'm a medical doctor basically. And my background is in mental health services, where I worked in the Department of Psychiatry for a good 5 years. And that's basically the kind of doctor that I am. I hope I've answered the question well.
Sure. Yes, you have a medical doctor. That's good.
Yes.
Because some of our speakers are doctors of philosophy or doctors of other things. So it's good to know that what you're speaking about is grounded in your actual lived experience. So I think that adds a layer of nuance and credibility to who you are and what you bring to your audiences. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Durban. I'm a thorough Durbanite. So in Durban, I grew up in the township of Umlazi until 1995. So the formative years of childhood were there. Then we moved to a suburb close by called Montclair, Woodhaven. So it's still in the Durban South. And then that's where I grew up, basically, in a very loving and happy home.
How was the change from Durban to Johannesburg? I mean, from laid back Durban to this crazy city that I call my hometown. That must have been quite a thing.
No, it definitely was. For me, I was craving the change. So to a point that when I'd done my internship and we had to select where in the country we want to do our community service, I literally, so to speak, as if like I've just chosen some place I don't know. I wanted to be in Gauteng. I didn't realize that Gauteng is divided into Ekurhuleni and Johannesburg. So I didn't realize that I chose a hospital in somewhere in Benoni. And that's not the Joburg, the Gauteng I expected. interested. So that was very interesting for me, but I wanted the change. So I was that side, and then I finally saw the city lights. It was overwhelming initially, but I was excited for the change because I felt that I needed a different pace of doing things, which I wasn't going to find in my hometown. Love Durban, love the beach, but I felt that in order for the growth that I wanted a place that is more buzzing.
And certainly Johannesburg is exactly that, right? Okay. Never a dull moment, never a dull moment. So you studied in Durban. Did you go which university? University of KZN?
Yes, yes, it was that. So I went to Nelson R. Mandela School of Medicine in KwaZulu-Natal, UKZN,
Okay.
for the duration of my studies. And high schooling was also Durban Girls High. So it was all very close to each other, with literally walking distance from each other. Yes.
Okay, so here's some sort of pop culture questions just so that we can get to know a little bit about you. Do you have a celebrity crush?
Without sounding generic like everybody else, let me just see. Musically or any?
Anyone?
John Legend.
Aha.
Although I'm taken now, but it used to be. Yeah.
But my husband says we can still look at the menu. We just don't necessarily order. Okay.
Exactly that. Yeah.
Do you have much spare time? And if you have spare time, what do you do in your spare time?
I do get spare time. Right now, I'm somebody who's in between, trying to follow my passion, also being approached by corporates a lot, wanting me to do the wellness, be in their wellness departments, basically. So what I love doing is reading. I love journaling. I enjoy hiking a lot. Surprisingly, my inactive self years ago would be like laughing at me. I love doing Westcliff stairs. I'm sure you know Westcliff stairs.
Yes, I
When you
do.
walk up those stairs.
Wow.
I love Westcliff stairs. I love hiking. So I'm doing Walter Sisulu on Sunday. Anything that relates to connecting with people is something you'll find me doing. So healthy company works well for me. And I love dining out as well in my spare time.
So dining out, you and I have a lot in common. Food and
Yes.
reading. Less about the hiking, I have to be honest with you. I'm like, I did that when I was younger. And a couple of years ago, we had friends in Cape Town who dragged us out on hikes. And, it's very pretty. Cape Town's beautiful to go hiking.
Yes.
But good book, lovely glass of red wine, and lovely meal. That's kind of where I go. So in Johannesburg, where do you go? Can you give me a favorite restaurant? Is there a favorite cuisine that you enjoy?
Sure. I enjoy seafood. I also love my red meats. I know one shouldn't say they love red meats because of the health factor, but give me a steak. I'm enjoying going to Design Quarter. There's a restaurant called The Rock. So
Okay.
the past used to be Kitchen Bar, now it's The Rock. So I enjoy going to Design Quarter, and I'm quite a regular at Ngcobo.
Okay.
So I like there's the Paul restaurants. They're everywhere. There's Mr. George and at Melrose Arch, and
Yes.
also another Paul at Melrose Arch. And then I stay in Four Ways, so I'm usually at Dameson Square as well. So it used to be Melissa's, now it's the Pantry.
Okay.
The restaurant there. So my coffee shops during the day, and then I love a good dining at night.
Okay. Great. We used to live in Bryanston, so I'm very familiar with Nicolay.
Yes.
And actually, Duncan and I had our first date at the Design Quarter.
Talk about, wow, that is amazing.
It is. It is.
But
It is.
Design Quarter is like, yeah, the place to impress.
Exactly. That's a whole nother story for a different day. We still laugh about it. Okay. So tell me, in terms of speaking, I heard you briefly speaking to Duncan earlier. What is the next big goal for you in terms of speaking?
Yes. My next big goal is to have a more national and international reach. Once people are more acquainted with me, I just want that, I don't know I have that hunger to have a greater reach of people, so that I have diverse audiences. I do love, being in the corporate sector, being invited to different events to speak, but I just feel like I want to spread my wings, basically, even if it's having a talk, being invited in Cape Town, or having a reach somewhere in Durban. That's also fine for me. But the end goal is to be able to be an international recognized speaker. And I know that's not an overnight thing at all. But I want to be a renowned speaker and grow, because I mean, probably when I look at this interview in years to come, I'll be thinking, oh my gosh, because I will have grown even more, and probably look at my keynote and think, oh my goodness. So I plan to grow and have a greater reach.
If you can look back on your keynote in a few years and go, oh my gosh, that's a great sign that you have learned and that you have grown. And if I may be so presumptuous as to give you some advice after my 5 minutes in the industry, those speakers who have been successful are the ones who continue to learn and adapt and grow, and they never become complacent with their talks. Those are the speakers who succeed over a long period of time. The guys who, I have seen it in the past, where guys have been phenomenally successful with one keynote presentation for years and years and years. But I think the world has changed since then, and we are more sophisticated as an audience, especially South African audiences. We've come a long way, and so we expect a little bit more from our speakers now than just one canned presentation over and over and over again. That's what the feedback we're getting from clients at the moment is that they can have you back, but they don't want the same thing that you did 2, 3, 5 years ago. Even last year, it needs to be something fresh.
Sure.
So just maybe in 5 years' time, I'll look back and go, what was I talking about? The great unknown, right?
Yeah, no, that's true. It's growth.
Tell me about your biggest pet peeve, like the thing that bugs you the most on earth.
Biggest pet peeve, I think it would be arrogance, because I'm a big person for humility. I'm all for humility. So when I find people who are being pompous and arrogant, I can see my nerves just being a bit shot, So yeah, I'd say lack of empathy and arrogance are my pet peeves. Lack of humility, basically.
Yes, I know. I'm 1,000% in that movie with you. Nothing turns me off faster than somebody who's arrogant. It's just, I wouldn't say it's my biggest pet peeve, but it's definitely up there. One of them. So, and if you could invite 3 people to your dinner table at Paul, at Ngcobo, dead or alive, past or present, 3 people, who would they be?
Okay. It would be Steve Jobs, without sounding generic. Steve Jobs. Definitely Maya Angelou. And only 3, hey?
Only 3.
And Oprah Winfrey. I think I've sounded quite generic, but
no. But so a lot of people. That's what a lot of people say. I don't want to be like everybody else, but Steve Jobs, Oprah. I think that's a great legacy for them to have left. That so many people would just like to have 5 minutes of their time. And I think if we could all aspire to leave that kind of legacy behind us, what a wonderful way to live our lives, right? I think we can take a lot from that. Absolutely. So you said that you could, John Legend, you're taken now, so can you tell us a little bit about your family life? If you don't mind.
No problem. So I'm a middle child with all the issues that come with middle children. So I've got 2 sisters on either end. One is 2 years, 7 months older than me, so she's 38. Younger sister is 32. Then I have my parents as well. My dad is 72. My mom is 65. So they've been one of my greatest support systems and very directed in how they raised us. So I come from a very staunch Anglican upbringing. That has come with its pros and cons. And I've learned to sift out what works for me. So I come from a very religious family background, and very strict but very grounded. And I believe that the person that I carry myself to be has been largely influenced by my upbringing. I mean, many factors come into play, but I do think that my parents' voice and the way of navigating the world has been a great influence in my life. So I come from a very loving home, but obviously no family is perfect.
We won't let them see this video, shall we?
No, we won't.
Because we all had perfect childhoods, didn't we?
Of course.
Okay, so do you have any hidden talents apart from scooting up and down the Westcliff stairs? I mean, that's a talent all on its own.
Yeah.
Do you have any other hidden talents?
Yes, I'm a writer. I recently
Oh, cool.
I'm an author. I recently released my book in 2020. So I say I have a way with words. I have a way with making people get into one's shoes and understand. So I love writing. It's a real passion of mine. Yeah. So I'm an author as well.
Cool. Okay, so just a long time ago, I said to Michael Moll that it must be terrible to be such an awful underachiever. And I'm going to say the same thing to you, because obviously you're this doctor, you've overcome, a few hiccups in your life. Bipolar is nothing to be made fun of. So you've come across that. You're a medical doctor, you're a professional speaker, and an author. It must be awful to be such an underachiever.
It sucks terribly.
It sucks. So we joke about it, but so what is it that you do every morning to motivate yourself, right? I asked this of a speaker yesterday, what is it, it must be quite a lot of pressure to get up every morning, and obviously it's you against you. So what do you do every day to do more, to be better, all of that
Yeah.
stuff?
What I do every day, I love my music. I love listening to music, motivational music, mostly in the morning. I love, those YouTube videos. My attention span isn't fantastic, so I like the 10-minute ones, 10,
Mm-hmm.
15, just to listen to those. And I'm quite open-minded in terms of who's speaking. So it could be that. And I love podcasting as well. So I make sure in terms of the energy that I allow into my space is very pure and meaningful. And then just to add to my, what feeds me, every single week I go for therapy as well. So there's times I look forward to it and there's times that I don't, because therapy is therapy. So that
Right.
also enters me quite a lot, not only because I have a mental illness, but because of the growth that it comes with. The person I am today is not the person I was 5 years ago, for sure.
Of
Yeah.
course, of course. So, yeah, I firmly believe that everybody on earth needs therapy. There's none of us that can get away with it. I think that it's a vital part of growth in so many ways, to have somebody, a sounding board, somebody who has that outside perspective that can help you reframe things. I'm a huge fan of therapy. Certainly I wouldn't be the person I am today if it wasn't for therapy. So I'm also with you in that movie. Is there
Mm-hmm.
anything else you'd like to share with us that I haven't asked you about?
You are very well rounded. I just want to add that I'd want one more person at my table, Malcolm Gladwell. That's all.
Okay.
That's all. In case,
That's all.
because it's so important. But anyway, you've asked me very well questions. I feel like you've captured the essence of who I am and the
Great.
questions. So I'm happy with that.
All right. Wonderful. Well, thank you for making time for us today. I know Friday afternoon in Johannesburg, it's not the most productive time on earth. So thank you very much for what's the weather like in Joburg, by the way? Is it still cold?
It's crisp but sunny, but it's very crisp, so it's very confusing.
Typical winter day in Johannesburg. I
Yeah,
must say, I don't miss. We moved out of Johannesburg in 2012 and lived in Cape Town, and I never missed the thunderstorms. I must say, I grew up with them, and I don't miss the lightning and thunder at all. I do not miss the winter mornings where your temperature gauge is in the minuses at all,
yeah,
but those beautiful blue skies in the afternoons, that I have to say that I do miss those. I do miss
they're
those.
amazing. Those ones are amazing with the sun setting in and you
Mm,
driving. It's really
mm,
lovely.
Well, please give my hometown a big squishy hug for me. Tell
We'll
it to
do.
behave itself if it's possible. Thank you for spending time with me today. I appreciate it. And
Thank
hopefully we will be able to get you onto all of those stages that you are
Fantastic.
needed on, and we can get that reach for you. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much, and for waking up. I know it's very early there, so thank you so much. It
Oh, you're
doesn't
welcome.
seem that way. The way you guys are so enthusiastic and positive, so I'm thankful for that as well.
Well, that comes with not having a job, but an adventure. So, you know, it was the reason to bound out of bed in the morning is to make sure that people like you that we believe in and that we love are in front of people that need to hear them. So it all comes down to purpose and I get to work with my best friend and my husband. So,
Wow, amazing.
see, easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
Thank you. That is so awesome. And have a great weekend.
You too. Thank you, Samke. I appreciate it. Take
Thank you.
care. Bye.